Welcome everybody. Today's Winged Wednesday webinar, and just to let you know, we are a very small volunteer-based organisation. So with these webinars, we deliberately want to keep them free. So if you are in a position to make a small donation towards keeping them going and covering some of our costs, then we would welcome that. We'll pop that in the chat. There's also an opportunity to become a friend of Bats Without Borders as well, if you would like to do so. So we'll have that information in the chat for you. And also we have a fantastic talk next month. So if anybody's new to Winged Wednesday webinars, they are the fourth Wednesday of every month from February to November. And so you can keep all the information as on our website, but if you've signed up to these, you will get information on all the webinars coming up. So just to let you know. And so I'm absolutely delighted to welcome today Dr. Szilárd Bücs, who's going to be talking to us about Romania's super colonies. We are going to be talking about a lot of fantastic work that's being done in Romania. Szilárd is a bat researcher with more than 16 years experience, and also is Romania's scientific focal point for Eurobats agreements. If you're not familiar with Eurobats, we can pop some link in the chat, but fantastic work coming out of Eurobats. He's also the president of the Centre for the Bat Research and Conservation NGO, and coordinates several projects of bat research monitoring, advises university students on their bat-themed theses, and also organises public talks about bats whenever he is needed. And I'm sure you'll all appreciate at this current climate, it's fantastic to have somebody advocating on all these different levels. He's also responsible for creating a trilingual bat portal, which we will pop the link into chat. And this is between Romania, Hungary, and in English, and also has a lot of more complex resources about Romania's bats and bat conservation. So I would highly recommend you look into all of these, because we can also learn such a lot from the work that's already been carried out. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over now.
Thank you, and thank you everyone. I should share my screen now, yes?
Yes, please.
Okay, I hope it's visible.
Yes, it's not full screen yet, but yeah, we can see that's it. Perfect, thank you.
Yes, so thank you, Bats Without Borders, for this possibility to talk about Romania's bat colonies, as we like to call them, super colonies, which of course are not, if you look at the global level, they are not that big as in the tropics or Bracken Cave, but they are certainly among the largest caves, largest colonies of Europe, and very beautiful colonies. So we like to say that Romania is a European superpower for bats. We have quite a diversity in European terms. At least 32 bat species are present in Romania, including all 5 horseshoe bat species that are present on the continent, but also Mediterranean type species or species for Northern Europe come down to Romania, and we have here this nice diversity. We have colonies of 1,000 bats that is a usual sight usually in Romania. We have several colonies with more than 10,000 bats, and we have 2 sites which are among the largest European colonies with over 40,000 bats each. And we would like to call them super colonies. All this is happening in a very diverse landscape where there are more than 12,000 caves for bats to use. There are thousands of historic buildings that can be used in the warm seasons. And Romania has also the largest percentage of ancient forests, virgin forests in the European Union. More than 60% of Europe's ancient forests are located in Romania. So in this presentation, I will mostly talk about the cave colonies of Romania and the dwelling colonies of Romania. And I will not talk about the forest dwelling bats of Romania, because although these forests are here and we know that the bat species are in the forests, we do not really know anything else about the forest dwelling bats of Romania. So yes, the cave dwelling bats of Romania. Currently, we know of more than 80 subterranean sites, roosts, caves, or mine galleries that have large bat colonies of hundreds of thousands or even tens of thousands of bats. You see them marked here on this Romanian map. Mostly they are located, of course, in karstic regions like the Apuseni region, or the Banat region has the largest colonies and the largest number of caves with big colonies. But even in recent years, we continue to discover new big colonies. With green, you see the new discoveries of recent years. And the largest one, the bat colony in Romania is located in Huda lui Papara cave. You see basically half of the colony here on the cave's ceiling, and my colleagues tiny above the colony. So we are talking about 25-30 square meters of bats hibernating in this cave. For example, in the winter of 2018, we counted more than 70. We estimated more than 76,000 bats in this cave, which is, if not the largest in Europe, then among the top 3 in Europe. A close-up of one of the Pipistrellus colonies. It's basically a living cover on the cave ceiling, or the Miniopterus schreibersii colony, the same. But also the bat monitoring in this cave is quite nice. We have to do it in winter. This is a winter colony. And in this video, you will see us exiting the cave after a 6-hour monitoring, basically in water that is partially frozen. So this is what we do year after year. The frozen cave wall, and the water is not too much warmer than the cave wall, but you have to monitor the largest colony in Europe. Șura Mare cave has the second largest colony in Romania. You see my colleague there sitting below the colony. Again, in the winter of 2018, we estimated around more than 46,000 bats here, made up of all those species, including the largest living cover of bats in Romania or possibly Europe. They are pipistrelle bats, 25-30 square meters of Pipistrellus hibernate here each year. But also a very large colony of Miniopterus schreibersii. And the Șura Mare monitoring is quite similar to the Huda lui Papara monitoring. Basically, we are in water, in freezing cave water for long hours. And I can show you now when we see this large Pipistrellus colony. So my colleagues are standing in the water, and we just look up to the colony. Yes, so this was Șura Mare cave. In Betfia cave, we have the largest maternity colony in Romania with around 10,000 bats. Made out of 3 species. And a colleague of us from the UK, Barry Collins, shot this video in infrared about the Betfia colony. So what you will see is basically a vertical shaft. You will be looking down at this vertical shaft, and the Betfia colony is spiraling up like a tornado. We like to call it the bat tornado. So 10,000 bats are spiraling up in this vertical shaft and exiting on a very small window. Happening each evening of the summer. And as I was saying, we have even new discoveries even in the last years in frame of several projects, including funding from the European Union. For example, Topolnica Cave, which is a karst superlative, a superb cave in itself, also is home to one of the largest medium-sized Rhinolophus colony of Europe. Of more than 7,000 bats hibernate here each winter, and this is how this hibernation colony looks like, 30 meters high in the cave ceiling, one of the largest in Europe for this species. But the Topolnica Cave has also a nursery, a maternity colony of around 44,000 females remain here from the hibernation colony and give birth to the new generation. And this cave and this colony was first counted only in 2015, so quite recently. Buhui Cave is my personal favorite. It's basically a paradise for bats. It has the largest diversity of colonies in Romania. 8 species, 8 highly protected species form big colonies here. For example, the greater horseshoe bat has the largest hibernation colony here. And the Barbastella has also the largest colony here, only 400 bats, but it's by far the largest in Romania. And around 6,000 bats hibernate here each winter. This is the Barbastella, a small part of the Barbastella colony. This is basically half of the greater horseshoe bat colony from this cave. A typical small patch of a few 10 bats of Myotis capucini, the long-fingered bat, if I'm not mistaken in English. And the Buhui monitoring is quite similar to all these other caves, because the cave is full of water, and you have to jump through waterfalls to get to the colonies. In freezing water, but this is what we do. And this cave was first monitored and first properly counted. The bats here again in 2015, so quite recently. But what about the conservation of all these large cave colonies? What is happening? So before the 2000s in Romania, there was cave conservation and cave protection mainly for the caves themselves. So no cave was closed with bat conservation in mind. Incidentally, they also protected some bats through closing, but the main objective was to protect the caves. And after 2000, Romania joins the European Bat Conservation Agreement, the Eurobats Agreement, and we have the first projects about awareness and education. And we also start the monitoring of caves and bats based on the model from the United Kingdom. And in 2007, Romania joins the European Union, and the Natura 2000 network, which is the European Protected Area Network, is automatically extended into Romania. On this map with orange, you see the Natura 2000 sites, the Natura 2000 protected areas that were created also for the protection of bats. So besides bats, also other mammals or plants or habitats, but these protected areas exist also because of bat conservation. And in 2010, we had our first large-scale bat conservation project in Romania, with funds from the European Union through the LIFE instrument. And the main activity of this project was the bat-friendly closing of 15 very important caves. You see me there standing in water with a cave closed in frame of this project. And here are some other examples of these bat-friendly closings that were done in frame of this project. For example, what effects did these cave closings have? If we look at the Vadu Crișului cave, which is home to a very nice hibernation colony of the greater horseshoe bat. This was, and on the left, the existing gate, which is not really bat-friendly. I mean, bats can get through, but the truly bat-friendly gate system is with the horizontal cells on the right. So this was done in frame of this project. And if we look at the graph of the colony size of the greater horseshoe bat in this cave, this is the moment of closing, of changing the vertical cells to horizontal cells. And as you can see, the colony steadily increased. This at the end in these years, this is probably part of a natural fluctuations, but overall, this change in the gate system was beneficial for this colony. However, if we look at all the caves with big colonies in Romania, only about 1/3 of them are closed. 30% are closed. A small percentage of them, like 10%, are naturally protected. This means that they are either very difficult to access, or inside the cave, it is very technical. So these caves have very little visitors. There is a small percentage of caves where there is some control of tourism. However, over half of these 80 caves have no bat conservation whatsoever. So no gate, no person standing at the entrance, nothing. So colonies are pretty much exposed. And what are the threats faced by Romanian cave bats, which are probably very similar to the threats faced in other countries? For the first is uninformed or ignorant tourisms in the key seasons, in winter, for example, or in summer with maternity colonies. Several caves are modified for mass tourism with lights and artificial lighting, which is of course not good for bats. Overall, there is a habitat modification and fragmentation in Romania, as in other countries. For example, the Romanian government building highways everywhere. And I also forestry practices. I said intensive forestry practices, not to use a stronger word. But this of course affects bats. And in Romania, we also have a very specific threat, which are religious tourism, which means that somebody at one point just thinks that I discovered a saint living in this particular cave, and suddenly an altar is created, or candles, smoke, fires, people start gathering to this place where supposedly a saint lived. And there are several cases in Romania where colonies were destroyed in this manner. And also wind farms. Of course, we need green energy. Everybody needs green energy, but sometimes these wind farms are placed inside the karstic landscape, which is not really good for bats. Okay, we as an NGO and bat people started to work with cavers, who are basically the most frequent visitors in the underground, so they can have a profound effects on bats. We have to work with them. And we had a specific project for cavers financed by the Columbus Zoo. We trained cavers in species identification. We created a tough, indestructible ID key about bats for them. And we also made several of those new, very recent discoveries together with in mixed teams with speleologists and bat researchers. And also, this is the indestructible ID key that we created for the cave environment. Several caving clubs are using this. And this is the largest colony that we discovered together with cavers in a very short, a 30-meter cave, a big unknown colony of around 3,000 bats. A very, very nice result. But also during this project, we started to see ringed bats that were carrying rings from Serbia. So if you know, Romania borders Serbia to the south, to the southwest, and apparently bats are migrating between Serbia and Romania. Here you see other examples of greater horseshoes with Serbian rings identified in Romania, hibernating. On this map, you see on the left side, you see Serbia, and on the right side, you see Romania. And the arrows, of course, bats do not migrate on a straight line. This is just representing the connections that we were establishing. So as you can see in several cases, bats migrate between Serbia and Romania. They basically form nursery colonies during the summer in Serbia, but come to Romania to hibernate in these caves, and then again go back to Serbia. Here you see the whole region. This is southwestern Romania with some protected, with some national parks here, and this is the left part is against Serbia. This is what we established, the connection between Romania and Serbia, but this is the Danube. You know, the Danube flows all through Europe and a large part forms the border between Serbia and Romania. So this is the Danube, this blue line. And we did not know if in these areas or other areas of the Danube, do bats migrate or not. So even on a larger scale, this is happening in the Banat region. As you can see here, Romania, Serbia, and Hungary on the European map, and this dark green area is called the Banat region, which is split mostly between Serbia and Romania and a little bit in Hungary. But this Banat region, also known as the Iron Gates, is a biodiversity hotspot with sub-Mediterranean climate. Several national parks are located along the Danube. As you can see here, my colleagues are standing on one side of the Danube in Romania, but this is already Serbia. So this is like 200, 300 meters. This is nothing for a bat. Of course, they migrate, but we have to prove this. So we won a project from the Conservation Leadership Program, and together with our Serbian colleagues from the Natural History Museum in Serbia, we wanted to do research, conservation, and education in this region to protect bats. And in the last 2 years, we surveyed more than 200 sites. With orange, you see Romanian sites, and with light blue, you see Serbian sites surveyed, over 200 in frame of this project. And again, this is the Danube between Serbia and Romania. And this is what we already know, these arrows, but this is not across the Danube. However, in frame of this project, we also found ringed bats carrying Serbian rings at this cave in Romania, and we found a big transitory colony, a migratory colony, again in this region very close to the Danube. So probably bats crossed at 200, 300 meters between the two banks of the Danube. And we also detected with ultrasound detectors very high bat activity in the middle of the Danube, so basically on islands where cave-dwelling species have basically no business only if they are migrating. So there are no caves on these islands. These cave-dwelling species that we recorded were probably in migration across the Danube. Okay, and we can conclude probably that the whole Banat region, so this whole area that we call Banat region, is a big meta-population because, for example, for one Serbian maternity colony, at least is connected to at least 6 hibernation sites in Romania. A very nice pattern. This colony sends bats everywhere to Romania. And also the bats are crossing the Danube. Again, they do not migrate in a straight line, but this is Serbia with light blue, and this is Romania with greens. At some point, it has to cross the Danube. Okay, so truly we can say that in this region, our bats are without borders. They just don't care about country borders. And yes, now that we have the data, we have to protect these bats somehow. So we concluded that the most exposed colony and the cave is located in Romania, in this region, the Despicatura cave, which is basically located in a parking lot of a hotel. So you park your car, and in 1 meter, there's the cave. It's very disturbed, but it also has the only known nursery of the lesser horseshoe bat in this region. And in the left here, you see the old gate, which is non-functional. It was regularly vandalized, people went in, and in frame of this project, we changed this gate to a proper bat-friendly gate with horizontal elements. We also placed warning signs about prohibited periods, mostly winter and summer, at 18 caves that have big colonies, and also indicated to people how they should behave in the presence of bats. And we also placed much detailed big information boards at 11 popular locations, detailing more about the local bat fauna. And if you are ever in this Banat region, either in Serbia or Romania, in free national parks, in free visitor centers, we will have interactive corners regarding bats with ultrasounds, with information, with all kinds of interactive elements in order to educate and inform the people, to raise awareness about bats. And we hope that this cross-border bat fauna that obviously ignores traditional country borders will be protected jointly. Okay, currently we also started another live project with funds from the European Union, involving 4 countries, from Poland, from the Czech Republic, from Slovakia and Romania. The Polish colleagues are the coordinating of the whole project. But in Romania, we work mostly on the conservation of cave colonies. Each country works on something else. In the Czech Republic, they protect buildings. In Slovakia, they protect forests. In Poland, they do a lot. They do many things. And in Romania, we try to conserve the cave colonies. We will have 2 bat-friendly closings, 2 caves. We will block the passage at 2 other caves, and we will consolidate the collapsing entrance of a mine gallery in order to protect the colony and the site itself. So yes, in 2 cases we chose not to close the cave, which is a very aggressive, so to say, very big modification of the cave environment. But we will basically deepen the riverbed to around 1 meter depth and basically discourage people to go further and explore the cave and disturb the colonies. So it's basically a passive conservation. And we hope that these large colonies from this cave will continue to be there. And now, this was about caves, so let's talk a little bit about our colonies from historic buildings. I don't know if you know, but Romania is the land of churches. Legend has it that Romania has more churches than schools and hospitals. A lot of churches are in Romania. More than 80,000 churches are in Romania, plus many thousands of historic buildings or ruins, and lots of abandoned buildings, which all can be good for bats in the warm seasons. So we have quite some big colonies also in churches, for example, in church towers. These are, in 95% of the cases, maternity colonies where female bats gather and give birth to the next generation. Around 70 locations with such buildings are known currently in Romania, with several highly protected bat species form nursery colonies here. But again, as is the case of caves, several thousand buildings are not checked. Basically, there are so many buildings that you cannot check everything. The largest known maternity colony in a Romanian building is located in the Moșna Saxon Church. You see it there on the left photo. More than 1,400 mouse-eared bats gather here every summer. And I tried to create a panorama photo of this colony last year, but this photo stitched together of many photos is just half of the colony. So it basically does not fit on the screen. This is the largest. The second largest is a totally, it's an abandoned silo, which was used for cereals. And it houses a colony of similar size. 1,400 mouse-eared bats gather here every summer. Or the forestry building of Sasca Montana locality, which has a very nice nursery of three highly protected species: greater horseshoe bat, Mediterranean horseshoe bat, and Geoffroy's bats. We have a very nice little lesser horseshoe bat hibernation colony in the Călugăreni crypt. They choose a very strange place. They hibernate in the crypt. If you see this left photo here, on the lower part of the picture, these are human remains, historical human remains. So the colony hibernates above that. This is the strangest place I seen for a bat colony. Or the railway station at Halta Peștera, which is the largest maternity colony of the lesser horseshoe bat in Romania. Around 170 female bats gather here. But unfortunately, this colony is either destroyed already or is about to be destroyed. And I will talk about this a little bit shortly. Or the Moldovenești Unitarian Church, which has a nursery colony of around 1,700 bats made up of 4 highly protected species. And this is not a question mark. Unfortunately, this colony was destroyed in recent years because although we knew this colony for at least 10 years, several cleaning actions took place at the church, cleaning the guano that was accumulating in the church. Even a part of the tower was restored in frame of a bat conservation project. We had an information board at the church. We had several presentations for the local communities about this colony and the importance of this colony. In 2018, when we went to monitor this colony, we found the church in the middle of a renovation, and the people just tell me that they don't care, they don't know. And the worst thing is that this happened in the middle of the summer, so already when the colony was giving birth. So the worst possible moment for a bat colony is to renovate the location in the middle of the summer. But this unfortunately happened. We reported this to authorities. And yes, as in case of cave colonies, also building dwelling colonies have several threats. First and foremost, chaotic renovations and disregarding existing legislation. The building owners basically have the attitude that the building is mine, I can do whatever I want, the colony has no place here, and so forth. But this can happen only because Romanian authorities are not too active in this domain, so they do not enforce the legislation. And there are unfortunately also intentional destructions. The colony is burned down. Unfortunately, we know of such a case, or even the colony is cut in half with a chainsaw. It is, your mind just stops. Why do people do this? But it happened. And the most innocent threat, so to say, is basically when people are indeed unaware of the presence of bats and they destroy a colony. But again, as in case of caves, there were several conservation actions and projects taking place in the last years. Several historic buildings were renovated that had the wooden parts too degraded already from guano. These were restored. And we as an NGO, we also removed several tons of guano from buildings. As you can see, Romanian bats, as in other countries, produce a lot of guano in the warm seasons, eating all these insects. So we cleaned them in several locations, thereby protecting the building itself also. Yes, several such actions took place. But a very important part, as I'm guessing in all other countries, is communication and education and raising awareness regarding bats for the public. We organized the International Bat Night, which is a European event held in many European countries at the end of summer. And we organized the largest bat-themed events in Romania for the public. Fortunately, we can say that lots of people attend these events and are happy to learn about bats. And the best example is Sergiu, who you see on the photo. He's a priest. He has a very small colony of around 50 bats in his church. And currently he is listening to some ultrasounds there. And he's very proud of that bat colony. That proud that he even started to organize such big education events for children. So we are talking about a priest who you would think that he would not be too receptive towards bats, but Sergiu is a very good example. Yes, we also run the Romanian Bat Portal since 2016, which is probably the only online platform in Europe which publishes everything in 3 languages, in Romanian, Hungarian, and English. So please feel free to visit our webpage. We also organized a series of national bat conferences every 2 years. And you see on that photo one of the problems of Romanian bat conservation, meaning that we are a handful of people who are trying to do all this in Romania. You see the group photo there. Very few people in comparison to the size of colonies, to the diversity, to the multitude of threats faced by Romanian bats. We are only a handful of people who try to make bat conservation work. We also have the Bat of the Year initiative, which is a public vote since 2017. Basically, the members of the public choose by voting their favorite bats, and in this way we try to raise awareness about that particular species. For example, in 2020, the Barbastel was the Romanian Bat of the Year. We also currently creating the online database of Romanian and Moldovan bats. And in this way, we will also contribute to the 2nd edition of the Atlas of European Mammals by Tony Mitchell-Jones. And we will also create the Atlas of Romanian Bats. This is happening now. But again, we know a lot about cave colonies and we know a lot about building colonies, but we don't know very much about our forest dwelling bats. Only that they are there. All this would not be possible without our partners, who are mostly NGOs of diverse background, or caver clubs who help us in more technical caves. or more importantly, national parks, protected areas of Romania. We have several partnerships going with them. And our founders and our colleagues on the Meiotis Bat Conservation Group. And of course, our funders. Our work would not be possible without our funders and our donors. Thank you for them. And yes, this was the presentation. Thank you for this possibility. You find us on Facebook, on Instagram. If you want to donate, there is our page. And thank you for this opportunity to speak about Romanian bats.
That's fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Incredible amount of work going in to what you're doing. I guess kind of with, specifically on caves, I was just wondering, you talked about, obviously some of the issues with buildings. Have you found that you've had difficulties engaging kind of landowners or managers where there's, these are really important cave systems?
About engaging administrators for caves?
Yeah, or just whoever owns the land, are they quite receptive to you going on and doing surveys? And
yes, I mean, in Romania, 99% of caves are located inside the national park. So we have to deal with the national park administrators. Basically, we ask permits from them. And in Romanian legislation, there is a provision that no landowner can block access to a cave. So if I have the permits from the national park, then you are allowed to go. Of course, you call the owner, you say, hey, I will be here and here on this date. I will not destroy your property. I just enter the cave and exit, and then nobody will stop you.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. I mean, I must admit, in Southern Africa, we've had very receptive to landowners, actually being, most of the sites I've been to have been privately owned, but still, very, very open. So yeah, no, this is just fantastic amount of work. So Chris said, superb lecture, which is very, very true. Very insightful. I'm in Albania. In the summer, but Romania is next on the list. So there we go. So I suggest you get in touch. So just to say, I have put the Eurobats link in the chat, and I've also put in the link. So do go and have a look. Incredible amount of resources. I know we will definitely be going and using some of those lots to be learnt. So Charlotte has a question, said, you said that there hasn't been much research on forest dwelling bats. Are there any specific barriers or challenges you find to studying these?
Yes, the biggest challenge is the lack of manpower. I mean, we are just a few people for Romania, and although they are these very intensive forestry practices, so to say, Romania still has a lot of forests. So we cannot cover it, basically. That's the main issue. No, authorities, again, forests are, and the most important forests are located inside national parks. So again, we would have to ask for permits, which would not be a problem. This is not an issue. We have the equipment to do, but just the manpower is missing, because of course you study forests in the warm seasons, but in the warm seasons you also have to go to caves, you have to go to buildings, and then you just fragment your efforts in many places.
Yeah. So just to say, if anybody wants to raise their hand, feel free to do that, or you can pop your questions in the chat. I was actually just interested in, so the cave systems that you have, there's been quite a lot of disturbance that you've actually put the sort of grills up. Have you found, is there, I guess there's quite a lot of research done in the kinds of structures to put up, because I know certain species are not, don't cope very well with that, because we've had that certainly for us, but with the Egyptian fruit bats in a system, that wouldn't cope well. So I was just wondering, kind of, if you found that you've developed different kind of structures over time, or was there already quite a lot of information that you based kind of the sort of installations that you put in?
No, nothing new. I mean, if the local species permit that the cave would be fully closed with this grill, then we fully close it because that's the most efficient. But if there are sensitive species present, then of course a big window is left open, and below there is this bat-friendly gate, and we try to discourage people with info boards. Please do not go. Yes, it's kind of a ladder that you can climb up and go inside, but discouraging this. Or as we will do in this live project, we are not closing the cave, but basically digging a big hole so people cannot get over it. Because there in that cave, for instance, there are sensitive species and you cannot close the cave.
Yeah. So Charlotte has another question. You mentioned a large barber-style colony in a cave, about 400 plus bats. Was that a summer maternity colony or was that a winter hibernation colony? And is it the largest known in Europe or in Romania?
It's not by far the largest known in Europe, but the largest by far in Romania, and I think Southeastern Europe, but the Balkans, I think. Because in other sites, in other Romanian sites, we find 10, 20 barbastels, and here they aggregate for the winter. So this is a hibernation colony. Basically, it's not a colony; it's many small patches of barbastels, but they are only there when it's very, very cold. So barbastels are forest-dwelling species. In the warm seasons, they are in tree holes. And they hibernate and they aggregate. We found that they aggregate in these big colonies only when it's very cold. So they can even hibernate at zero Celsius. Yes, it's a winter colony, and it's the largest, by far the largest in Romania.
It's huge. Yeah, so Eric, if you would like to ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I wasn't aware that horseshoe bats or rhinolophus were found that far north in Europe. So have they been surveyed for coronaviruses?
Rhinolophus species in where in Europe?
I wasn't aware that the horseshoe bats were found that far north in Romania and Europe. I thought they were more paleotropical, but obviously they are. And has anyone surveyed them for coronaviruses?
I'm not an expert on the domain of viruses, but the Rhinolophus species, at least the lesser horseshoe bat, goes up until southern Poland and southern Germany. So even much northern than Romania. Of course, these Mediterranean horseshoe bats, which are of African origin, they are Mediterranean species. We call them Mediterranean species. But for example, southern Romania has sub-Mediterranean climate, and they extend their distribution to there. I'm not aware of a particular study on viruses for Rhinolophus species. For other species, yes, we in Romania and surrounding countries, we give samples for virological studies, but not particularly for Rhinolophus species.
Great, thank you very much. And I guess also going back to sort of your, engagement with, in buildings, and obviously the difficulty, obviously there's very strong legislation in Europe, but if that's not being enforced, so I was just kind of wondering if there's, how have you found, obviously you alluded to, obviously communication and engagement is really, really key. Do you have any advice on how, so for us, in Southern Africa, most of our species don't have any protection. So we are also, and where there is also the enforcement is really tricky for us. So just wondering if you have any sort of insights into how you'd go about maybe engaging and also trying to, I suppose, speak to your statutory authorities about trying to take, bat crime into account.
Yeah, a direct relationship with owners is very important, but it's not even enough. Because, for example, in this example where the church colony was destroyed, the priest told us that from his part, the colony could be there and he has no problem with bats. But the hierarchical levels of the church and the chief architect of the church just overruled everything and renovate. So yes, it's very important to have direct contact with owners and make them understand about bats, and that there are various methods where, for example, a church can be protected at the same time as the colony. It's not either or. Both can be protected properly. So the historic building also is okay. And people have to understand, owners have to understand that there are methods to do this. But then again, communicating perhaps with higher authorities is very important also.
Right. And I guess it's more of a sort of technical question. You were saying about estimating, you know, the populations. I mean, my mind is just, and I just wonder, how do you go about that when you actually also have different species within, say, for example, a cave system? That must be quite tricky for you to you know, kind of identify, you know, how many numbers for each species.
Yes, I mean, for hibernation colonies, it's very easy because I don't know for other countries, when in Romania, during hibernation, there are no mixed colonies. So they are just patches of this species and that species, they are separated. So you count or estimate each one. The problem is more with the nursery colonies where several species form mixed colonies. Usually we try to take a quick photo and then count afterwards on the computer. You can recognize most species, or the species that form these big colonies you can recognize by photo, or maybe you put out a detector that records all the species and then you know what species are present, and on the photo you can estimate, you can count basically how many of these species or that species.
Fantastic. I mean, that's, yeah, and I suppose practice makes perfect as well. As you're going over time, you probably also get your eye in with some of them. But yeah, I mean, it does look like you have some, obviously a lot of challenges in terms of, you know, some tough environments, but really exciting environments. I must admit, the going through the ice cold water, I think you all deserve a medal for that. But it looks like a beautiful, beautiful cave system as well. So I just wanted to thank you very, very much. And so we'll be sharing the links on the YouTube video as well to catch up, and incredible resources, as we've said, also in 3 different languages, including English. So there's a great resource for us, and that's part of these webinars, is to learn from each other. And also there's the connection. So there's obviously the website as well. And there might be some links already. You've got somebody looking like they want to come and do some bat work with you, which is lovely and what we like to see. So a huge thank you very much, an incredible amount of work, and yeah, look forward to hopefully inviting you back again and hearing more.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity.